What's up guys, so I just came back from the forest. I was working on a new video which will be up in about 1 or 2 weeks. I'm really stoked to share this with you, and in the meantime I thought, okay, let's take a quick look at my editing workflow in Final Cut, because a lot of you asked for this since I made the switch from Premiere Pro 1 year ago to Final Cut, because working on a Mac with Adobe products was headache. It was crashing all the time. I was so pissed every time I had to edit something because I knew it would crash anyway. So I made a switch, and therefore let's take a look at my workflow, the plugins I use, how I color grade my videos, yeah, and all that stuff. But before we start, disclaimer 1. I'm using my own LUTs to color grade my footage over here. So if you're expecting something from scratch when it comes to color grading, you should skip this video. Please don't cry in the comments because I'm selling you something. That's the way I do it. I love to use my own LUTs as a base grade and go on from there. Disclaimer 2, there's no right way in doing anything when it comes to editing. If you can learn something, I'm happy, and if you're doing things differently, that's totally fine too. So I'm using third-party plugins to edit, but they are not sponsored in any way. If you got some tips on how to get that same result with a free plugin or without any plugins, feel free to share it in the comments. Okay, let's go. Okay, so here we are in Final Cut Pro X on the iMac Pro. I just put all the timestamps to the main parts of this video into the description. So if you want to jump to, let's say, color grading, you just hit the timestamp in the description and you can go to this part. Okay, so let's start with libraries and projects. If you want to open up a new library, you just go to File, New Library, and there you go. This is my new library I've just created. And inside this library, we want to create a project, which is our timeline. If you coming from Premiere Pro, you know this as sequence, and over here it's project. First of all, I start to rename this to, let's say, files, because all my files will go into this one. So let's say project. First of all, I like to go to Video Custom to set a custom resolution. Recently, I like to use an aspect ratio of 2:1, which in 4K would be 3840 by 1920. I'm using 25p as my frame rate because I'm living in Germany, and over here we got PAL instead of NTSC like in the US. If you're living in the US or somewhere else where NTSC is the standard, you should go for 24p or 23.98. So 25p over here, Apple ProRes codec, that's fine. Standard Rec 709 color space. So, and that's it. Say okay. And here we are with our empty new timeline/project. Okay, so let's say you don't want to put all your files like audio, songs, video clips into one folder. Then you can create a new keyword collection. I do this by just adding a new collection and name it like videos, creating another one and say songs, another one which is SFX, okay? So you put all your clips into this, all your songs over here, and some sound effects over here. Let's say we want to put some files over here. For example, we want to add some songs. Here we got some songs from MusicBed. Let's select those. Drop it in, and here we go. Okay, let's go to videos. Let's say import media. You can now choose to import some videos from, let's say, your SD card or your hard drive. And therefore I go to my extreme SSD. This is my SSD. Let's go to this one. This is my external SSD hard drive. And let's say real life, I don't know, pick some random shots over here, and you can say import. You can also do this by drag and drop by just selecting a clip in your Finder and put it over here. That's all I do with my project. So let's jump over to arranging videos and adjustment layers. Now I just want to drag some clips into the timeline and start to edit. Therefore, I'm selecting a clip, and either you can just drag the whole clip into the timeline, or you can just select a piece of it like this, and then drag this over to your timeline. And there you go. Okay, let's do this with some more clips. By pressing Command and plus on your keyboard, you can simply just zoom in and out. And now you can see we got some black bars on the left and the right side, and that's because we choose to create a project in a different aspect ratio than your camera shoots video in. So therefore, I'm selecting all my clips, going to the effects panel over here, and we say spatial conform. I don't know how to read this in English, but yeah. And say fill. And that's it. Nice. Okay, let's quickly add a song. Okay, before we start to color grade this, let's add an adjustment layer, which I'm using all the time with every video I edit. This is one of the downsides of Final Cut. Until this day, they haven't created their own adjustment layers, so you have to download them and put it into a folder to use them in your program. But don't worry, you can just grab a free adjustment layer on my Sapphire store and you're good to go. So you have a 4K and a 1080p adjustment layer, and it works on all your footage. So once you downloaded it and followed the instructions, you can find this here in the title section. Over here you can see 4K adjustment layer, and I'm dragging this on top of our timeline like this. And now it works the same as you know it from Premiere Pro if you made the switch or you want to make the switch. Okay, so now let's take a look at color grading this shot. So first of all, you want to add a LUT to it. Therefore, you can just type in LUT to your effects panel down here, which you can find by clicking this little button over here. And there we go, custom LUT. Drag it over. And now you can just select a LUT over here. I go with my CMG harsh LUT from my log LUTs pack and use this as a base grade now. So as you can see, there's a lot more to do to make this shot more pleasing to the eye. The colors already look nice, but yeah, let's tweak this a bit more. I'm selecting the footage down below, not the adjustment layer, and make some changes to it now, okay? Therefore, we have this little triangle icon over here, which is our basic color correction, our color board. And here you can find the three main parts, which is color, saturation, and exposure. So first of all, I like to turn down the highlights because it's way overexposed. Nice, okay. Maybe adding some contrast by lowering the lows. And there you go. Already looks nice. In most of my projects, these three tabs over here led to a final result, which I was really happy with. You can play around with this, or you can change the whole exposure. Let's go to color. Here we have the shadows, midtones, highlights. And let's say we want to make the shadows a bit more bluish. Like this. Maybe add some more orange in the highlights. Like this. Okay, so that's basically the easy way to color grade your videos. But now I want to jump over to what I think is the most important tool when it comes to color grading. And this is the hue and saturation curves. So we got our color board activated, and now we're adding a hue saturation curve. So now we got those two activated, okay? All our changes we did before are here. And now we're making some changes over here. Okay, maybe you have seen this in Premiere Pro as well. That's the most powerful tool in Final Cut Pro, I think, because you can change everything from saturation, hue, or luminance. Let's say I want to make my skin a bit more desaturated and maybe add some red tones to it. So we're going to hue versus saturation because we want to change the saturation of the hue. So we're clicking on this color pick over here, go to my skin and just drag a circle. And now it automatically added a control point, which we can drag to bring down the saturation. Okay, you see? Nice. We can also do this with the luminance. Let's say we want to make our skin a bit darker. So we're going to hue versus luma because we are picking the hue, the orange of my face, and we're bringing down the luminance. So color pick again, like this. This is our control point. And as you can see, everything that's the same color as I picked will be affected. The problem with this right now is that this is 8-bit footage, which was shot on the Canon EOS R. Therefore, we don't get too much information in the video to play around too hard on this. Now let's say we want to change the color of this cup. So what we need hue versus hue. first one over here, because we're picking a U and we're changing it to another U. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview over the hue saturation curves, which can be very helpful in your projects. So make sure to try this out and get used to it. Okay, so that's basically how I color grade my videos. So if you selected the adjustment layer, you can hit V on your keyboard to disable it. And here you can see the before and after. So this is more of a extreme teal and orange look. I just added another clip over here. You can see before and after if I disable this adjustment layer. Maybe I'm bringing down the exposure just a bit. Make the blacks a bit more fade. So in this way, especially on that color tab over here, you can change the mood of a video with ease. Like make it more sunny. Let's say you want to make this shot look more like it was shot in the evening. So I'm bringing down the exposure a bit more. Like this. Okay, so you get it, right? You can also add some color wheels over here if you like this over the color board. Maybe if you're switching from Premiere Pro, you know these already, so you are used to it. Here you can change the temperature as well. And that's basically all I do when it comes to color grading. Okay, let's jump into the next topic, which is transform. Okay, so here's the thing I like to do in a lot of my videos, which is simply creating a post dolly zoom. I'm sure you have seen this before, but I'm going to show you real quick how to do this in Final Cut Pro as well. So let's say I want to do a zoom in on this shot over here. So I'm selecting the beginning of the clip, go to transform over here in the effects panel, say scale, and I'm adding a keyframe over here. So now it's at 100%, and at the end we want this to be at 110%. Just type it in, hit enter, and that's it. The second keyframe gets created automatically. I think this is a great way to film yourself, or if you're shooting alone and you want to put some more life to your videos. So let's try another movement over here. So I'm resetting the keyframes. Put your marker to the beginning of the video. So now let's say we want a camera do a pan from left to right, okay? Therefore we have to scale in first a bit because we need the space left and right so the image can move without showing some black borders. So I'm putting this to 107. But we don't want to add a keyframe over here because we just want to automate the position, okay? So I'm moving around the image now. And let's say, okay, we want to start here. Add a keyframe, go to the end, and move it over here. Yeah, so basically you're putting one keyframe over here with the start position and one keyframe over here with the end position. That's it. So you can do this by rotating the image, scaling it up or down, whatever you like to, okay? Audio. So here we got a song. This is the audio from our clips itself. First of all, let's say we want to lower the volume of the song when the second clip starts. So I'm putting the marker over here where I want the audio to fade out. We go over to our effects tab over here, say keyframe, and it adds another keyframe. So then we're jumping forward and we say add another keyframe and pull this down to minus whatever, minus 15. And you can do the same to bring back the volume again. So another thing I like to do is to separate my audio from my clips. You can do this by selecting a clip and hitting Ctrl S. So now you got your audio separated from your video. And now you can do things like fade out. So your audio is playing, but the video stops over here, okay? So let me delete this one so you can hear what I'm talking about, okay? I like to do this for making a transition look more seamless. You can do this like, you can do it longer. And you can also do this at the beginning of a clip, okay? And by hitting Ctrl S, you can simply toggle between attached and detached, like this. Also, what's important when it comes to audio in Final Cut is to assign your audio roles. Like, this is our song, okay? So we go right-click, assign audio roles, say this is music. Okay, so now let's pretend that the audio from our clips is dialogue. So we're selecting the clips, right-click, assign audio roles and say dialogue. So in the end, before you render, it's easier for you to put some effects on several parts of the sound. For example, you want to add a special effect to all your dialogue in the end, like an compressor or an EQ. Then it will be easier for you because you only have to do this once on your dialogue instead of, let's say, 100 clips. Also, what you can do is you can search for audio and video effects in this tab over here. And let's say you want to add a low pass to the song. So I'm searching for low pass, dragging it into your song. And in your effects control over here, you can find low pass. Show you what this does. If I lowering this number over here. You can do this for transitions, or maybe you want to add a underwater scene and you need this underwater sound effect. Then it's really easy to achieve that with a low pass, because underwater you only hear low frequencies. You can also automate this. Let's say we're starting with the effect off, setting a keyframe. Now we want to dive deep until all the higher frequencies got cut off, like this. Yes. Okay. So that doesn't make any sense with this footage over here, but I think you get it. So let's move on to the next part, titles and text. Okay, so let's add some titles or text to our video. Therefore, we have to go to titles over here. And as you can see, there are some presets, which, yeah, like most of them look like they are made in the 90s. I don't know why they made those, but okay. I go for custom, okay, to create a text, which is simply a text without any animation or transition or wobbling hype bullshit effects on it. So, yeah, I'm selecting this. We can drag this over like to over here. And now you can see that little icon over here where you can put in your text. Let's say this is a tutorial by CMG. And I'm picking my lovely Avenir font. Increasing the tracking. You can also place it like this in the middle. Now let's jump to the transitions tab over here. And so I'm often using this cross dissolve to, yeah, just simply fade in and fade out my text. You can also do captions in Final Cut, but I'm not going into this right now because this would be a whole new video. So a few weeks ago, I created this new library over here, and inside there's just a simple timeline with all the text I am ever using, like this one for opening up a video, this one for telling where I am right now or where this video got filmed, and a longer text and my logo. So these are the titles I'm always using. So I've created a new library, put them inside, and now I can just leave this open all the time. And let's say we want to copy this, Command and C, and we go back to our timeline, paste this over here. There we go. And now we can drag this on top, and we have the same style in every video. Yes. Okay, that's it with the titles. Let's move over to plugins. I don't use that much plugins, but I show you what I'm using and why I'm using it. First of all, there's a pack which is called Cineflare Handheld, and you can get it on, I think it's from FX Factory. FX Factory is a sort of library which you can install, and therefore you can buy several packs and effects and stuff for all your Final Cut needs. And I just purchased this one, Cineflare, and it gives you a lot of movements which you can put onto your footage. By the way, I just switched to the other timeline over here, which is already finished. This is my video I'm working on right now. What I like to use is Handheld, especially if you're shooting video on your own and you want to make the video more dramatic or dynamic. So it looks like someone's holding the camera and doing some small shakes instead of a tripod shot. So that's one of the plugins I use. Now I'm showing you another color grading plugin, which is called LUT. Believe it or not, there was a time where there was no way to add a LUT to your footage without third-party plugins in Final Cut. Now you got that custom LUT over here, which is the native Final Cut solution. But before I had this LUT plugin. Okay, so first of all, let's delete the custom LUT so the adjustment layer is empty, and drag the LUT plugin on top. And this is how it will look like. And you get some more options than just adding a LUT. You can also do levels inside, contrast, like we have some grain over here. Over here you can load your custom LUT, which is basically the same like using custom LUT. Let me do this real quick. Yes, you can turn down the intensity of this. So the last plugin I'm showing you right now is RSMB, which I told you about in my Get the Cinematic Look in Premiere Pro video 2 years ago as well. It's called Real Smart Motion Blur, and I think it's about $99. So let me tell you why this is so important for me personally. I don't like to shoot with ND filters. I don't even own one. Everyone tells you take care of the 180-degree rule and keep your shutter speed twice as much as your frame rate. Yeah, that's right. And technically, it's the worst thing to raise your shutter instead of using an ND filter to keep your shutter low. If you want to get a cinematic look, okay? And this is because of motion blur. And this plugin, what it does is to bring back some motion blur. It's analyzing your footage and it's adding that motion blur back to your footage, which you would only get if you're using the correct shutter speed in your videos, okay? So, and therefore, I like to use this at the last step of my video editing. So keep in mind that if you're dragging this to your adjustment layer, it should be the last one in your plugin list. I also like to use GPU acceleration because my graphic card is strong enough to handle this. Let's find a clip where you can see how this affects your footage. Beginning, we got suns over here, and yeah, that's a really fast movement. As you can see, there's no motion blur, okay? So I'm dragging this plugin only to this clip right now because it's so heavy for your computer to handle this. And also on the iMac Pro, if I put this on the adjustment layer, it takes some time to render. So let me put this over here. Now it's loading. Oh, it's done already. There's already some more motion blur, which we were missing if we shot everything in a higher frame rate. Like, let's say you're shooting 120 FPS or you're just raising the shutter to keep your image well exposed. So here you see the difference, okay? This is without, and this is with RSMB enabled. yeah, that's it with my plugins. I'm not using any more plugins. Okay, so now let's render our project. First of all, if you're coming from Premiere Pro, you maybe experience some crashes while saving projects, and that's all gone now with Final Cut. You don't have to save a project ever again. Final Cut is doing this in the background for you, so there's not even a save button over here. If your computer turns off now for any reason, everything is saved, okay? But before we export it, I'm selecting everything by hitting Command A and say New Compound Clip by right-clicking on it. Now right-click on it and say Expand Audio Components. And this is what I told you about before, that you now have your music separated from your dialogue and your video. So you could now search for another plugin. Let's say you want to add a EQ to it, and you only want to EQ your dialogue. Now you see your dialogue has the channel EQ on it, and the song is without any plugins, okay? Okay, so let's export this. I don't know why everything over here is in German, because my whole program is in English, okay? Anyway, we want to select original file and go to settings, say video and audio, and I'm using H.264 for my video codec when uploading to YouTube. But if I'm working, let's say for a client job, I'm using Apple ProRes 422 or any other Apple ProRes codec to make it less compressed. Of course, Apple ProRes is the best quality overall, but if you're exporting in Apple ProRes, you will get a huge file. For example, this is only 16 seconds and it's almost 1 gigabyte. Also, YouTube can't handle this codec, so we're using H.264. And yeah, that's it. We say next and choose our destination, hit OK. And over here, we can see our render progress. Yeah, so that's basically all I do when it comes to editing, color grading. I'm not using any other programs like DaVinci Resolve. I'm doing everything in Final Cut Pro. If you got any questions, feel free to comment down below. And if you want to add something that makes my workflow faster, or maybe I can learn from you, just feel free to comment down below. Okay, and that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Tschüss.